Good afternoon, everyone. In today's New World video, we are going to go over the Superman Life Staff Sword and Shield build I have been playing a ton of recently. First things first, however, I would like to say Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year's. I'm sorry this video took so long to come out, but I promise you, you are going to have so much fun playing it in small scale PvP. Now, with all that being said, let's get right into the video. The first thing we are going to go over today is the Life Staff tree. There is two Life Staff builds you could run with this setup, and that's either going to be a healing build with Beacon or Orb of Protection. Each build works well, and it's going to be based on preference which you run. I personally run the Orb build because I do like the Fortify and heal over time it grants. So for the first Life Staff build, we have the hybrid Orb build with Divine's Embrace, Sacred Ground, and Orb of Protection. Divine Embrace is going to be our main single target heal, Sacred Ground is our main source of healing output, and lastly, Orb is going to be our main source of Fortify. As you see in this skill tree, we have not opted to take Protector's Touch at all because we will not be light attacking with our Life Staff. I know that sounds weird, but I will explain why once I go over the Sword and Shield builds. The main rotation for this build is going to be apply Orb on your team before engaging, Sacred Ground allies that are fighting, and lastly, cast Divine's Embrace whenever you need to spot heal someone. Remember, your team should also be playing around your Sacred Ground as much as possible and popping heal potions inside of it when necessary. Now, moving on to the next Life Staff tree, the entire left side is the exact same. The only thing that's changed on the right side is the ability swap of Orbs to Beacon. There is two options for passives I want to mention, and that is going to be Protector's Touch or Speed of Light. Both are great options to take, but I will mention again that we will not be auto-attacking with our Life Staff to proc Protector's Touch, so Speed of Light is the option I take and would recommend. Similar to the healing rotation in the last build, we want to apply Beacon before our team engages, Sacred Ground allies that are fighting, and lastly, cast Divine's Embrace whenever you need to heal someone. That is just a core rotation that you should learn as a healer, and that is going to help you in arenas, war, and OPR, anywhere. All right, so moving forward, we have the Sword and Shield build. In this build, we take leadership over defensive formation and value raw damage and utility perks rather than defensive perks. The main three abilities to take is Leaping Strike, Shield Bash, and Shield Rush. Since we have leadership, we want to have our sword out the majority of the time, which will enable our group to do the most amount of damage possible. We take perks such as Achilles Heel, which slows, Leaping Strike, which staggers and slows with Cowardly Punishment, Shield Bash, which staggers and stuns as well. You can increase the stun duration with Concussive Blast, and lastly, we do have Shield Rush, which staggers and slows again. As you all can see, there is so many CC abilities in the form of staggers, stuns, and slows. With this ability combo, you become one of the most annoying, offensive, defensive, peeling healers out there. If you haven't checked out my other videos featuring this build, don't forget to check it out after you finish this video. Now, with all that being said, let's talk about our rotation. The first thing we want to do with our rotation is Leaping Strike. We want to get the stagger off as well as the slow from Cowardly Punishment, and then wait till they dodge, and once they have the no stam or low stam, or you can get this Shield Bash confirmed, go for the Shield Bash and then into the Shield Rush. Since they are stunned from the Shield Bash, the Shield Rush is going to be confirmed as well. That's going to weaken them as well as slow them. This is going to allow our team to get close to our enemies and maybe combo it off of the Shield Bash and slow from Shield Rush as well. Now, after we get all of those staggers, stuns, and slows off, we want to make sure we stay in our Sword and Shield to get the max value out of leadership. Don't forget, you can swap to your Life Staff if you want to heal or you need to heal. One thing to remember is that you are a healer first and not a DPS player, so make sure you are using your heals properly and effectively and off cooldown to save your allies. But for the most part, make sure you do stay in your Sword and Shield to get the max leadership bonus. Let's talk about attributes now. The most amount of focus you want to run is 300 focus. Like any other normal hybrid healing or single target healing build, 300 focus and the rest constitution is going to be the best option. Having 310 focus only increases our healing output a little bit, which is not that worth compared to the 10 extra constitution we get, which is about a 200 health increase. It may not seem like a lot, but every little bit helps in this high damage meta. If you cannot get 210 constitution because you are not 625 gear score, just put as much extra points as possible. Now that we got the builds out of the way, now that we got the attributes out of the way, let's talk about the big juicy stuff, the gear. You can pretty much run any type of healing gear that you have with other healing builds that you run. The core thing that you do need to do in this build, however, is have a light chest. If you do not have a light armored chest, then you cannot run the Sword and Shield with the Life Staff. Unfortunately, the round shield also puts a lot of weight onto your player character. It's about 2.7 weight, so you do have to run the light chest. Now, moving forward, let's talk about the actual gear here, like I said, you can run any variation of healing gear that you have. In this variation of the build, I am deciding to run Shirking Fortification. However, Elemental Aversion or Freedom works just as well. You want to make sure that you have Resilience, Refreshing, and your third perk of choice. I'm going to go through my gear here from top to bottom, and we will talk about the weapons and jewelry after. So for the helmet here, we do have a Resilient, Refreshing, Shirking Fortification light helmet. For the light chest piece here, we do have Resilient, Refreshing, and Sturdy Energy. Since I do run the shield, I do like to have the Sturdy Energy. It procs a lot, and when it does proc, it is awesome. Your stamina regenerates so freaking fast. However, if you do not want to purchase this, or you have another piece of gear that you want to run with a different third perk of choice, feel free to change this out. For my light gloves, I am running a Resilient, Refreshing, and Fortifying Sacred Ground life staff piece. You want to make sure you have Fortifying Sacred Ground on any piece of your armor. This is going to be the best perk for this build, and any other healing build for that matter. For the light legs here, we do have the regular pants. Since I am running a full Shirking Fortification setup with Refreshing, there is no better option for the legs than the regular pants, which has Resilience, Refreshing, and Shirking Fortification. You can farm the regular pants on one of the mobs in Brimstone, and I'll make sure to leave it down in the description below. Now for the light footwear here, as you guys see, we have another piece of Shirking Fortification gear, Resilient, Refreshing, and Shirking Fortification. If you guys do not have a lot of gold to make a best in slot healing setup, that is a-okay. There is so many pieces of healing gear to farm out in the open world or in dungeons, so just put together what you can and it'll work just fine. Moving on to the jewelry here, we have a health, refreshing, and slash protection amulets. You can run any variation of amulets that you have with protection, stamina recovery, or health, but the main core takeaway is that you want to have health as well. It is going to be the best perk on the amulets. For the ring, we have a hardy sacred refreshing ring. I finally picked one of these up. It was about 200k on the marketplace, which is quite cheap compared to the price this was a few months ago. I am so surprised I was able to pick this up for 200k, but if you can afford this or you have one, this is going to be the best in slot option. For the earring here, we have refreshing toast, healthy toast, and refreshing evasion. Since we are a full refreshing setup, I would prefer to have refreshing over refreshing evasion. However, I do not have that currently. I'm still looking for a piece, and once I get my payout for my company, I'm going to be looking on the marketplace as much as possible. Now moving on to the weapons here, we have the glowing life crystal staff. We would not be a healer without this life staff. This life staff is insane. However, there is another life staff option that I do want to mention. As you guys can see here, we do have a blessed, refreshing move, and fortifying sacred ground life staff. If we decide to run this life staff over the glowing life crystal staff, we do have to interchange one of our pieces of armor. For me here, as you guys can see, I do have a refreshing Shirking Fortification and refreshing Divine Embrace helmet. So if I did want to have the Fortifying Sacred Ground life staff, I would have to wear this in place of that. I do love the glowing life crystal staff, but I have been messing around with this Fortifying Sacred Ground life staff. I can notice the fortified difference. You are so much tankier with this life staff, and I really do like it for this build as well, because it makes my team that more tankier, which means we can engage and get more kills. As you guys can see here, we do have the final waltz in its pre-nerfed state. I say pre-nerfed state because they did unfortunately change it from focus and constitution to strength and constitution. It's got keen, vicious, and refreshing. The refreshing is the biggest part of this sword, so if you did get one before they changed this, you can run it as well. However, I will show you a different option as well. So if you all have a final waltz in this pre-nerf state sitting around in the storage somewhere, you could run it as well for the extra refreshing. However, I will show you an option that I personally run just as much as the final waltz, and that is going to be the Plagued Strikes and Trenchant Rend sword. The Plague Strikes and Trenchant Rend apply both off of one heavy attack, so you can heavy attack a person one time and automatically hit them with a healing debuff and a rend debuff as well. If you want to play a full utility setup, I would recommend the Plague Strikes and Trenchant Rend sword. Now moving on to the shield here, we have refreshing, diminishing shield dash, and keen. The main two perks you want on your shield is going to be refreshing and diminishing shield dash. Refreshing to reduce your cooldowns, and diminishing shield dash to make sure that their debuffs get removed. It's going to reduce their non-consumable buff durations by 44%, which is going to be insane, especially if they have fortify or any type of defensive perk on them. So if you have a full setup with full refreshing, you can get a total of 11 refreshing, which is insane. That is about 33% cooldown reduction on a healer and sword and shield, which is going to give you more healing abilities and more stuns as well. Now for the Heartrune here, we have the brutal Heartrune of Grasping Vines. The Grasping Vines Heartrune is going to be the best in slot option with this build. It doesn't matter which variation you use. I do use the Rending Vines, but I also have the Stalwart Vines as well, sitting in a bank somewhere. I interchange them. I don't really care which one to use. The Rending Vines is very good for a very offensive team, and the Stalwart Vines is very good if you want to play more defensive. Doesn't matter which one you use. The main combo is going to be Leaping Strike into Vines here. I'm going to charge my ult up real quick. All right, so now that we have our ultimate charge, I'm going to show you guys the main combo that you want to do, and that is going to be Leaping Strike into the Vines. All right, so we're going to Leaping Strike into Vines, and it's going to look something like this. Leaping Strike, Vines. I missed the Leaping Strike, but as you guys saw there, if it connects and you Leaping Strike, it's going to be a massive root and a stagger as well. One thing I forgot to mention that I want to quickly go over is the gem split. It doesn't really matter what gem split you run. I do run a 5% elemental resistance as well as a 17 slash and 22 thrust. I should have an extra onyx somewhere in place of a emerald, I believe. I think I was supposed to have an onyx in this light chest, so I would have 20% slash, 5% strike, 20% thrust, and the rest is elemental at 5%. That gem split up is going to be 4 onyxes, 2 opals, and 2 emeralds with a slash protection amulet. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that about wraps it up. If any of you enjoyed today's video, make sure you support the channel by giving a thumbs up and subscribing. We are so close to 1,000 subs, and next year is only going to get better. I have a big tips and tricks for healers video coming soon, so make sure you stick around to learn something new. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and as always, peace, baby.